Hi guys, hope you're doing well. Happy Tuesday. We are going to be learning again more about developing rules for adding and subtracting positive and negative numbers. That's our target learning for today. So I need for you to write that down in your red spiral, please. Develop rules for adding and subtracting positive and negative numbers. This is lesson 7-8, and the date is 5/19/20. So we'll be on here for just a few minutes, and then we'll be over at our desk for the rest. So we are going to figure out if some number is greater than or less than or equal to the other number. So the first example that I have is -5 and -7. If you think about the 0 point on a number line, you're going to pick the number that is the furthest away. It's either going to be the largest if you go to the right of the 0, and it's going to be the smallest if you go to the left of the 0. So which number is going to be smaller? You can also think about this in owing money. That really helps also. And again, this is always going to be a skill that you're using regarding money. So that just is the connection, real life connection right there. So is -5 smaller than -7? Or is -5 greater than -7 or equal? We know they're not equal because they're two different numbers. -5, if you think back on 0 and you go back -1, -2, you hit -5 first. If you go even further, -7. If you're thinking about this in debt, which are you more in debt? -7. So that is, -5 is larger than -7. Let's think about 3/8 and -1. 3/8 is a positive. It's not got a negative number in front of it, so we know it's positive, and we know that it's less than 1 because it's a fraction, but it's still greater than -1. So 3/8 is greater than -1. If you have -8/4, you're going to figure out how many times does 4 go into 8? 2 times, but that negative sign carries with it, so it's -2 and -2. What's the answer going to be? They're equal to one another. We're going to dive a little bit deeper, but we're going to work on this together with our math journal. So I need for you to take out your math journal, please. And I need for you to open up to page 232. There's one of the things that you are going to use in class that you do not have access to, but that it shows you how to use this. One of the things we were going to use are the counters that are yellow and red. And we would use one color for positive numbers and the other color for negative numbers. And then we would place them and stack them on one another to take away certain numbers. We cannot do that. So what I'm going to need for you to do is I'd like you to take a piece of paper and I would like you to divide it into boxes, just large enough for you to make these two numbers. I need you to either write a -1 on it, and I need you to write a +1 on it, or just a regular one. You don't have to use the positive sign, but it really does help you in your head as you're starting to think about positive and negative numbers. So either a +1 or a -1. Once you get that done, so then you will have stopped the video and made those. This is the set of directions that goes with Math Journal page 232. And it talks about, I'm just going to take my glasses off for a minute. It says, use your positive and negative counters. Those are the pieces of papers that you created. Each positive counter represents $1 of cash on hand. That means you have the actual money, just like it did when we went to BizTown. Each negative counter represents $1 in debt or something that you owe, and that's a negative number because you don't have that, you need to pay it. So your account balance is the amount of money that you have or that you owe. If you have money in your account, your balance is in the black. If you have money and you're in the positive, it's in the black. If you are keeping your books, and if you're an accountant or anything for a business, if you are not making a profit or you do not have a positive amount, then you are in the red. And so that means that you're in a negative balance. Your business is not earning money or that you owe money. So the first suggestion or question it says on here is, suppose you have this set of counters. So it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 positives and 3 negatives. So what is your account balance? If you take those 3 negatives and place them over the 3 positives, then you're only going to have 2 positive dollars left. So it's a perfect example. If you had $5 and you had to pay $3 in debt, then you're going to have $2 left over. So that's how that works. Are you in the red or are you in the black? Well, if you look back up, it says if your balance is positive, then you are in the black. Question 2 says use positive and negative counters to show an account with a balance of positive $5. Draw a picture of the counters below. There can be multiple answers for this, combinations, but what ends up happening is that you need to have positive $5 in the end. So for an example, you could have written 6 positives and 1 negative, and you would have taken 6 minus 1 equals 5 positives. That's just an example. So you want to try to get to positive 5. Number 2 example says use your positive and negative counters to show a balance of negative 8. Draw a picture of the counters below. Okay, let's say that you have a positive 2. How much are you going to have to go back to cancel out that 2 that's positive and get back to all the way to negative 8? So if you think about it and you're covering it up, this is what's going to happen. You're going to have 2 positives that you're going to write down, and you have to have 2 negatives that cancel that out, so you get back to 0. And then you need to go to negative 8. So you've put in 2 negative numbers plus 8 negative numbers, so you wrote down a total of 10 negative signs. So you had 2 positive signs and 10 negative signs, and that gets you back to negative 8. That would be one example. The last problem on this page says use positive and negative counters to show an account balance of 0. So basically, if you think about it, what you need to do is counter it so that they're equal, because you're going to go up however many, and then you're going to go back down that same amount and land on 0. Or you're going to go down in debt that amount, and then you're going to come back up in profit to hit 0. So you're not going to be in the red, you're not going to be in the black. 0 is just a 0 balance. So for example, you could have had 3 positives and 3 negatives. That would equal 0. If you had negative 7 and positive 7, that would equal 0. So basically, a rule that you can always think about with adding and subtracting negative numbers is that if you have one number and you have the opposite number and you're adding those numbers together, you just go back and forth on the number line and it will always come back 0. If you're subtracting the numbers behave differently, which we'll get into. But right now we're just doing some simple transactions so that you understand going down the number line, coming back up the number line, and moving in the direction. Remember, when you're moving in the positive direction, you're always moving towards all the numbers that we've recognized starting after 0 in the positive realm. When you're moving negative, you're always going left, which makes you turn back towards 0. So I could take an extreme case like negative 1,000 and add a positive 1,000 to it. So I would go all the way down past 0 to negative 1,000, and then I would take tiny jumps just like you did in first grade, but you would jump 1,000 times to get right back up, and you would land on 0. If I had a negative 1,000 and you added 1,001 to it, then you would come out as 1 ahead, positive 1. So that's how that number line and that function works. Again, we've only talked about adding, addition, and subtraction, or negative and positive numbers. When you see those small signs or lines that are right next to the numbers that look like they're a positive or they're a negative number, that's how you say it. You don't say that you're adding 2 or subtracting 5. That's not what you say. It's a positive 2, and then whatever the operation is, plus, and then negative 8, and then you would get an answer. So if you just see a number sitting alone, you will always assume that that number is positive unless it tells you otherwise. And even when you're subtracting them, that will still work that way, okay? So what I would like for you to attempt on your own is to work on page 233 by yourself, using your positive and your subtraction cards, or your positive and your negative cards, to try and solve these problems that are listed on this page, okay? Once you get through with page 233, then I would like, if you could please, to work on Math Journal boxes 7-8, Math Journal boxes 7-8 on Math Journal page 236. On page 234, it has a review about ruler fractions. We're going to cover that tomorrow in a separate, not a separate lesson, but in a little bit more detail. So I'm going to have you work on that tomorrow, okay? I hope you guys have a great day, and I will see you again online tomorrow. Thanks. Bye.